It's the Odd Drunk Podcast, a very strange podcast, the drunkest show in the world. It's Jackson and Colton talking out of their ass. We don't care as long as drinks are poured. Sometimes we have our friends here. We will talk about anything. We don't care as long as we have beer. And if you let that whiskey ring, the Odd Drunk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Odd Drunk Podcast with your host, Jaximus and Coltonus.
Coltonius.
Coltonius.
Yeah.
Tonight we are going to be talking about ancient Rome and how Colton is a history major and wanted to talk about ancient Rome.
Yeah, we've been doing episodes where we generally talk about a time period or theme. Like
the
Vikings
the
and
only
pirates.
We did pirates and Vikings because that's just like the cool ones. We
Yeah.
still got to do ninjas at some point. But I remember you mentioning ancient Rome as far as back as the pirates episode. I swear.
Yeah, because I like talking about ancient Rome.
You've always wanted.
We can.
And guys, before you get bored, there's a lot of interesting, weird things that the Romans did. So this should,
To put it lightly,
it should be a fun one. Yeah, to put it lightly,
the Romans were fucking weird.
Very weird. Just a common citizen.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty cool in a lot of ways too, but they were also very weird.
And they plagiarized a lot from the Greeks.
We'll get into that because I think the way that people portray the Romans just stole everything.
No, they're so vastly different than the Greeks.
Is not
culturally.
It's a misunderstanding of what they were.
It's more in their art and architecture.
Well, I mean, it's also a vast misunderstanding of what Romans were actually doing. Like they weren't stealing stuff; they were borrowing ideas and Romanizing those ideas. So,
well,
I'm sure an architectural
Rome,
like an architect,
much like
or a architectural historian could probably look at a Roman column and a Greek column and
much like
easily tell
the modern day Rome, the U.S. We take things and then we Americanize it. The Romans Romanized it. Before we recorded this,
I for a second, it took me a second to realize that you were comparing the USA to Rome. I thought you were talking about the city of Rome in Georgia.
Yes,
say
Rome, Georgia.
Rome in Georgia.
The modern day, even though there's Rome, Italy, where I was the capital.
A smartass in history courses in school when someone would talk about the Rome falling, and I'm like, Rome never fell; it's still there. People live there. You can go there.
You mean the Roman Empire?
Like,
your dick. But you want to hear, since we played around with ChatGPT last time, I failed to kind of advertise for that because I didn't know what to do. But go listen to that episode. But I'm gonna ask it to tell me a joke about ancient Rome. Let's see what it gives us.
I've got a Roman joke, but it's visual.
Sure, here's
you have to be able to see my hands.
Well, we're not yet a visual podcast.
So it'd be kind of stupid to
maybe one day when we update our webcams, Sure, here's a joke about ancient Rome. Why did the Roman Empire collapse? Because it was all roads and no traffic. That was really bad.
That's stupid.
I don't even really understand. Oh, wait. Come on, give me a better one. Give me a better one. Oh, this one. Oh God, this one might be worse. Why did the Roman Empire decline and fall? Because they were roaming around too much. The AI is just the king of dad jokes.
I really like the AI generated jokes.
Anyways,
I mean,
you're
there's been, we have examples of jokes from ancient Rome. They had jokes too.
well. The one in Life from Brian was pretty good, where John Cleese corrected what's his name, the guy that plays Brian,
Graham
on like the
Chapman.
spelling. Yeah,
Oh
Graham
yeah,
Chapman.
yeah, his Latin grammar.
Yeah, his Latin grammar.
I wrote
Like it was.
I took an ancient Rome history course at Fort Lewis that we had our main term
Biggest
like
dickus.
paper that we did, like project. And I completely chose my topic around how can I fit in a Life of Brian reference. So I
Right.
did it on,
Did you?
yeah, I the paper I titled it, see if I can find, I don't remember how to say it.
Ooh, I have a question for you. While you're getting that title, what do you think is a more accurate depiction of Rome, of ancient Rome? The Life of Brian or Gladiator?
Life of Brian.
That's what I figured.
That's an easy one. Gladiator is really bad. I love
No,
that movie,
Monty
but
Python.
it's really bad.
What's always been great about Monty Python, like in a Life of Brian, the Quest for the Holy Grail, yeah, they're being silly and absurd, but the setting, the costuming, the way people act is
Oh yeah.
usually pretty accurate.
I mean, there's a few examples. I mean, I did a bunch of I did a whole project on rebel sects in first century Roman occupied Judea, which is when Life of Brian takes place, obviously.
Yeah.
Specifically, I was looking at the first Jewish-Roman War, which was in 68, 69 BC, which it's this whole event. It's where the Vespasian and Titus led an army, and they laid siege to Jerusalem in 70 AD and destroyed the Second Temple. Well, that was Titus. Vespasian at that point in the war had gone back to Rome to commit a military coup and become emperor and start the Flavian dynasty. But but it's interesting because the way they portray that era in Life of Brian is really great, because there's stuff like how there's the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front, and they keep confusing each other because they just hate each other, and they're just like, I don't hate anyone more than the Romans. Well, what about the Judean People's Front? Oh, I hate the Judean People's Front. Yeah, fuck the Judeans People Front. Wait, no, aren't we the Judeans People Front?
No.
What happened to the
People's Front of Judea?
What happened to the populist Judean Front? He's over there.
Yeah.
It's just one lone guy sitting in the stands. And that's like
that's good
how
stuff.
it was, because the first Jewish-Roman War, I think, in my conclusion from reading about it, is that it wasn't like this big war, like, because that makes it sound like it was very organized, when it's really more accurate to describe it as a populist revolution with a bunch of different groups.
Yeah.
So like there's details like that in Life of Brian. There's also little jokes that like you don't catch, like, so when they capture Brian and they bring him to Caesar, and he does the whole throw him on the floor thing, and and they throw him on the floor, and he goes, wait, I'm a Roman. And they stop and they go, oh, you're a Roman. Who is your father? And that's kind of shows an understanding on the writer's part of in Roman society, being a Roman citizen was very, very important. And I don't mean just like because you had rights, but I mean it was socially important. They really cared about their identity as Romans.
Yes.
So when I took that ancient Rome course with Dr. Martin, he pointed out, he's like, what is the most important phrase in Latin that if you were to travel back to ancient Rome, like time travel, and you were there, what is the most important thing in Latin you would want to know how to say? And that's Romanus sum, which means I am Roman. Because little things like if you were a Roman citizen, so I mean, the Roman Empire had a bunch of provinces, but not all of them were incorporated in the way that like the main.
All right, Colton, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, sorry.
Because you're already going on a historical rant, which is good because that's the point of this. Yeah. But before we continue, we have to get something out of the way. What are we drinking?
We're drinking civilized drinks.
Yeah.
We're drinking wine.
I mean, we're both drinking some red wine. Mine is a Portuguese wine called Silk and Spice 2021 Red Blend.
Oh,
yeah. I didn't spend a lot of money on this. I just wanted some wine.
It's a decent one.
Of silk and... Oh, you've had this one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And we all know that Portugal was once part of the Roman Empire. So that counts.
They were also colonizers, which I think is what the title of that wine is referring to. Yeah,
so it says the metaphor of silk and spice applies to the flavors of this red blend, smooth and juicy with a slight vanilla note. It possesses flavors that can only be found in the indigenous grapes of Portugal. Portuguese explorers discovered the silk and spice routes to the Far East in the 1500s. Prized for their enhancing flavors, nutmeg, cinnamon, and pepper changed the world cuisine. Yeah, that's true. While silk from China became prized for its luxurious touch and softness.
Nice. Was that just is that a red blend or a...
It's a red blend, and it has a map of essentially Indonesia, Malaysia, part of India, Lower China. Colonialism.
Yeah. A whole nother historical topic, which is not as fun to talk about as ancient Rome.
No.
It's
but what do you got there?
I went a similar route to you.
I know you have wine.
I went over to the Iberian Peninsula as well. I got a Spanish wine. It's called Los Dos. It's cheap. And it's a Garnacha.
A Garnacha. I don't know if I've ever had one.
Yeah. So it's a common type of wine in Spain. It's a red wine. It's fine. It's good. It's cheap. It's like a $10 bottle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Not. There's not much to say about it, really.
Since we're talking about ancient Rome, I got some pizza here. Some American.
Nice.
Domino's Maximus pizza.
Yeah. In preparation for this episode, I instead of doing a bunch of historical research, I was playing some Super Mario Brothers earlier.
I thought you were gonna say at least like playing Skyrim and like with the Imperials because they're like Rome.
No, I mean they are, but
Mario.
No, Mario.
Anyways, let's get into some stuff. So, you're obviously the lead of this episode. You're the history major. You know your stuff about Rome, but I've got some list here of just some fun facts. And to start us off, and you can correct this, you can argue with me. This is from thecollector.com.
And please stop me if I start ranting, because
so no, I want the rants. I think the listeners are gonna have fun with that. So the ancient Rome, an unknown history of alcohol.
Nice. I almost wrote for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I backed out because they pay $50 an article, which is garbage.
Well, you could have wrote this article. It's a really easy article. Just make a
Yeah.
list. Just look up the facts on Wikipedia and make a list.
No, but actually, the
Um,
standards that they give you a list of things you have to do in their articles, and they're like, and
No, I'm sure.
it's not $50 is like
Well,
garbage pay.
I'm just undercutting them.
Yeah.
Just let me. Okay. Anyways, so number one, ancient Rome borrowed many drinking habits from the Greeks. Who would have thunk?
Yeah.
Ancient Roman approach to alcohol was influenced by Greek culture, the largely permeated via Greek cities in southern Italy. Roman drinking behaviors were in many respects similar to Greek, although they had some differences. Originating from the Greek symposium, elite Romans gathered on couches to drink in private houses and banquet rooms. Wine was the drink of choice at the very heart of ancient Rome's culture. Ciders and other fermented drinks were known, but were all second to wine. And beer, we talked about in the Viking one, barbaric. Even though, go listen to our Viking episode, because modern stereotypes tell you, oh, the Vikings were extremely barbaric and the Romans were these civilized, conscious. No, the Romans were also extremely barbaric. I mean, most people know about the gladiator combat and all that, but
In many
it goes
ways,
way further than that. It
well,
goes way further than
and we'll
that.
get into it. There's things that they do that they did that were kind of admirable as well, though.
Well, yeah, they gave us
But
modern
the
Western
Romans saw
culture as
beer
we know it.
like barbaric, because that was like what the
Um,
Gauls would drink. They drank beer.
yeah. They gave us concrete. They gave us great architecture, plumbing
Yeah.
to a degree.
Yeah.
The Egyptians had it too.
So they said that
But,
they brought from like the Greek colonies in Italy. They got their drinking habits from.
But and so yeah, it says beer, fermented grains, and milk were decidedly un-Roman. So every time you drink a
Milk,
beer,
I
I guess milk was un-Roman, and it could carry barbarous connotations. Roman's drinking culture evolved over the centuries. Drinking was part of this. The smallholder of Rome's archaic period did not have the access, means, or cultural inclination to drink like a Roman of the Republican or imperial periods. As ancient Rome evolved, it grew in wealth and sophistication and gained access to prestige goods like wine and slaves.
Yay.
Wine and slaves. It also experienced cultural exposure to the exotic drinking habits of the Hellenic East.
Right.
And number two, in ancient Rome, exposure to wine expanded greatly from the 2nd century BCE. We have learned that there were many varieties of wine in ancient Rome. In the 2nd century BC, Cato the Elder wrote De Agricultura. I assume you know about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably mispronouncing it.
I've not read it.
Instructing elite landowners on how to establish their estates. Several wine varieties are mentioned, and focus on viticulture shows the impact that wine had on the Romans. I also, this isn't in this article, but I read somewhere that Roman wine and like its varieties isn't dissimilar to the wine we drink today.
Oh yeah, no, that's
It's, I mean, yeah, we have more today, more varieties, but
really there's
like
there's a
most
lot
of the most
different...
common wines,
Mhm.
the Romans were essentially drinking the same kind of wine we're drinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's essentially, because I mean, geez, I'm not even remotely close to being someone who knows stuff about wine, but my
You
understanding
like
is
it?
I do like it, but I don't know anything about it really. My understanding, I'm trying to learn because I sell it for a living, but so it helps to know about it. A lot of what makes different types of wines unique is the type of grape.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, if the Romans had similar types of grapes, they made similar types of wines.
Yeah. Basically, the rest of this list just goes on to talk about wine and how much the Romans liked wine. so it's not that interesting.
They loved wine. Yeah.
Every fucking number in this list is like, yeah, did you know the Romans like wine? Here's another thing particular about wine that they like. Also, Colton, since we're drinking and, you know, consuming liquid and consuming, well, I'm consuming food as
Yeah.
well. Make sure you hold your pee so you can save it for laundry day.
Oh, yes.
Because in ancient Rome, they would use urine to clean their clothes. Clean their
Kind of.
clothes.
Kind of. They figured out how to process urine into ammonia. That's what they did. They didn't just use straight
urine.
They didn't just like pee on their clothes. Like, I mean, hey,
Yeah,
imagine if you're in ancient Rome, you're wearing your toga, right? And you can't hold it. It'd be culturally acceptable to just pee your pants, pee your toga, and people would be like, "Hey,
people
you're
are
just
peeing
cleaning
their pants everywhere.
You're just cleaning your toga." No, but no, they knew how to process urine into ammonia, and what they would do in big cities is you have your chamber pot, right? And if you could have one specifically for urine, and then you could take it to like I don't know what they would call it or where specifically would be, but you could take it somewhere where they would take it off your hands and then process it.
Right.
Imagine having that.
No, I forget what it was called, but like they basically had these stations, these facilities where people would just go piss and then they would manufacture it or do whatever they got to do to make it an ammonia. Where did all my stuff go? While I'm looking for my stuff, what's something in particular you really wanted to talk about when it comes to Rome, ancient Rome?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to, I think a really, I mean, I could rant on and on about like really stupid things with Rome, but I think it'd be really cool to touch on.
Correct me if I'm wrong. No, you know this. The Romans were obsessed with the phallus. Would often carry it as a lucky charm, or you would put it on above your door, decoration.
Yeah, the Romans loved dicks.
I was reading somewhere they recently discovered like the largest Roman dick phallus.
They would do stuff
like out of stone.
If you lived in a city like Rome and you were wealthy enough to own property, but you didn't have a wall, like you weren't that wealthy enough to build a wall around your property, they would sometimes mark the corners of their property with statues of dicks. So that everyone knows that this is your property.
Right. Yeah.
The Romans were all about that. They fucking
Well, and the Romans were very, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from everything I know and everything I've read recently, a very, paternalistic society.
Yeah.
It's all about the man, the father. And it's, I even read, now, especially correct me if I'm wrong on this, I watched a YouTube video. Well, I listened to a YouTube video earlier. This guy was talking about like the worst things the Romans did, and that when a child was born, they'd be placed basically at the feet of their father. And if the father didn't like the child, they would just throw it out.
No, they didn't do that.
I don't know where this guy got it. Maybe it was like an exaggeration of something.
So here's an important thing to point about Rome is if you hear stories about any type of human sacrifice or anything, I heard like
abandoned children was a big thing, though.
Oh, well, in ancient,
not human sacrifice.
Yeah, in ancient Greece,
even though the gladiator thing,
and Rome took a lot from ancient Greece. In certain city states, leaving babies out to exposure was a thing. Like in Sparta, they would do that. They didn't throw babies off of that mountain or whatever it's called, Mount Tayegetos
Like in
or
300?
yeah, they didn't do that. But they would leave babies out for exposure. Romans, I mean, it's not that it maybe would have never happened, but like um if you were a father in ancient Rome and you had a kid, you would raise the kid. And if the kid was, and so there's the Romans had a thing called the 12 tables, which is you're basically like their law, and it was in the 12 tables. There's if I remember correctly, there's a thing. I think it was in 12 tables. I could be mistaken. There's a thing about how a father can give away their child 3 times before the child is free from their father.
Okay.
And what that would be basically is like um in practice what that meant is
So
like
fucked.
you would as a father you would give your kid to someone to like work for them, or you could do that. You could
Or to
give
be a
them to
slave.
someone. Well, not slavery like an apprenticeship, but
Okay.
it didn't have to be as glorious as an apprenticeship. It could be like you need someone to basically clean your fucking
Clean shit.
latrines, and I've got a kid
Yeah.
who's useless, so I'm giving them to you. But then the employer, the person that was the kid would then be working for, if they were like, your kid's a piece of shit and is useless, I'm gonna give them back to you. And the father, if and you could do it, and if there was a thing like in Roman law where you could do it like a certain, I want to say it was like 3 times. And if after the 3rd time, if they're still given back, then the you could just give up on the kid
Oh jeez.
and just be like, you're useless, you're not my kid anymore, you're free, go do whatever the fuck you want. But I don't know, I don't, my understanding is that like leaving babies out for exposure was not like that common of a practice. The Romans didn't really approve of that type of stuff. Human sacrifice they thought was completely barbaric.
Well, it depends how you define that, I guess, because while gladiator matches aren't a sacrifice,
It was, well, here's another thing. It wasn't as
men
common
are
as
still dying.
not nearly as common as you would think for gladiators to die in the ring. That's
Really?
I mean, here's the thing about gladiators is that we really don't know much about them.
Well, like the animals
Like,
and the lions and shit, they would send out on each other, and
yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So the thing
that
with
was problematic.
gladiators is we really just didn't know a whole lot about them. You take a movie like the movie Gladiator; it's a really terrible depiction of ancient Rome, but their depiction of gladiators is, you can argue it's,
Chariots and everything.
well, yeah,
And
well,
Russell Crowe.
you can argue that it's okay, their depiction, because we know so little about gladiators.
There's a lot
that
of free range
yeah,
to.
you can take a lot of artistic interpretation.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
since we're
yeah.
on gladiators, this list is from what the fuck? Listverse.com. Top 10 truly disgusting facts about the ancient Romans. And I'll maybe I'll mention other ones, but since we're on gladiators, and we'll hear your input. Number 7, gladiator blood was used as medicine. Roman medicine had its fair share of eccentricities. Several Roman authors report people gathering the blood of dead gladiators and selling it as medicine. Romans apparently believed that the gladiator blood had the power to cure epilepsy and would drink it as a cure. And that was just a civilized approach. Others would pull out the gladiators' livers and eat them raw. This was so popular that when Rome banned gladiatorial combat, people kept the treatment going by drinking the blood of decapitated prisoners. Strangely, some Roman physicians actually report that this treatment worked. They claim to have seen people who drank human blood recover from their epileptic fits.
I've never heard that before, so I can't really say.
Maybe you just weren't taught it at your institution.
Well, yeah, I know, but I was gonna say I actually just don't know about that. But it wouldn't surprise me.
Sounds like something they
because
would do.
one thing we do know about gladiators is that they were like celebrities. People fucking
Well, and here's another
loved
gladiator.
them.
Oh, definitely. They were
Yeah.
celebrities.
So
They
the
were-
idea
I mean, that was their football. That was their hockey, you know?
Yeah. So the idea that they're that the fervor around gladiators would lead to a belief like, oh, we should be drinking their blood for medicine. Whether it's because people actually believe that or if that was just snake oil salesman type of situation.
Right.
It
Well,
wouldn't shock me, really.
here's another thing. Number 6, a woman would rub dead skin cells of gladiators on their faces. The gladiators who lost became medicine for epileptics, while the winners became aphrodisiacs. In Roman times, soap was hard to come by, so athletes cleaned themselves by covering their bodies in oil and scraping the dead skin cells off with a tool called a strigil. Usually the dead skin cells were just discarded, but not if you were a gladiator. Their sweat and skin scrapings were put into a bottle and sold to women as an aphrodisiac. Often this was worked into a facial cream. Women would rub the cream over their faces, hoping the dead skin cells of a gladiator would make them irresistible to men.
Huh.
And I also heard somewhere else that, they would use their sweat as a perfume of sorts.
I've heard that. I've heard that one. Yeah. Again, I mean it's you know totally what? I've not that's an area of Roman history I am not super familiar with, but
that's totally plausible.
What I do know, it does not sound out of place.
That's kind of like modern day like internet simps when what's her name? Delphine or whatever, one of the streamers was selling her bathwater.
Oh, yeah. Or people selling celebrities' hair on eBay and shit.
Yeah, it's much like the ancient Romans, we still worship celebrities, and some people will go as far as to want their own bodily fluids and other nasty things.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. Now, this one I think you should definitely be able to speak on. 3, Romans hold the first recorded mooning. When you show your butt to somebody. Rome holds the unique distinction of recording the first mooning in history. Flavius Josephus, a Jewish priest, wrote the first description of a mooning while describing a riot in Jerusalem.
Yes.
You know this.
I've read that.
Well, you tell us about it then.
I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's exactly what it's pretty much what you said. So Flavius Josephus, or just known as Josephus, was a Jewish rebel around during the first Jewish Roman War, or Judean Roman War. Some people don't like to call it the Jewish War. And to sum it up, basically, he was with some rebels, but he got captured by Vespasian, and he was a very learned person, and he impressed Vespasian. The story is that he told Vespasian a prophecy, which, I mean, maybe he just made it up by himself, like made it up just to please him. But the story is that so he was held up in a cave with a bunch of other Jewish rebels, and they were surrounded by Roman forces, and Josephus came up with this idea of I don't remember what it exactly is, but he's like a mathematical way of where they'll stand in a circle and then commit suicide in a certain order. And then the last person would kill themselves. So they would kill each other, and then the last person would be because it was like a sin. They didn't want to commit suicide because of their religion and stuff like that. So they would kill each other, and then the last person would be the one that commits suicide. And the story is that he set it up in a way to guarantee that he was the last person alive so that he could live. and he went on to basically be kind of a slave, kind of not. It's weird. Under
Hmm.
the Flavian dynasty. So he was like
Okay.
very close with Vespasian and with Emperor Titus and stuff like that. And he would go on to write several histories of the War of the Jews, is what he called them. And yeah, in one of those, he describes the first the mooning. Yeah, Josephus is who I basically wrote my paper on. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So yeah, it says during Passover, Roman soldiers were sent to stand outside of Jerusalem to keep watch in case people revolted. They were meant to keep the peace, but one soldier did a little bit more. In Joseph's own words, the soldier lifted up the back of his garments, turned his face away, and with his bottom to them, crouched in a shameless way, and released them a foul-smelling sound where they were offering sacrifice. The Jews were furious. First, they demanded that the soldier be punished, and then they started throwing rocks at the Roman soldiers. Soon, a full-on riot broke out in Jerusalem, and a gesture that would live on for 1,000 years was born. People have mooned each other before that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the first. I don't think that's the first guy that ever thought of that.
Yeah.
But first recorded mooning, it's pretty significant. Unless someone, you could bring up, actually, the Egyptians did it all the time. Blah blah blah.
I mean, I'm sure it happened before.
Yeah, I'm sure it happened.
The first recorded like someone like a historian.
It would have been on TikTok
mentioning this type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happened.
If Josephus had a smartphone, he would have TikToked it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Whoa, look at this! This is crazy."
Let's see. Hold on.
Oh, here's one. Now correct me on this one too, or correct this writer. Romans vomited so they could keep eating. Now that's a generalization. That wouldn't be any Roman. I think it would be like the upper class essentially, because I heard about this, that they would have these huge banquets or whatever it was called, and they would eat so much because the rich could afford it, and even when they were full, they would have some slave or somebody stick a feather down their throat, vomit, so they could eat more.
Yeah.
Says some people threw up in the bowls that they kept around the table, but others didn't let themselves get so caught up in the formalities. In some homes, people would just throw up right there on the floor and go back to eating.
Jeez.
The slaves are people you really need to feel sorry for. Yeah, for many reasons. So that's a bit of an understatement. Their jobs were terrible. Jobs. That's also that's an overstatement. Oh, you're frozen.
Oh,
there you are. So in the words of Seneca, we reclined at the banquet. One slave wipes up the spittle, another situated beneath collects the leavings of the drunks.
I've heard that before. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see.
Ooh, here's another list. 10 intriguing ancient Roman foods by David Hughes and fact-checked by Jamie Frater, apparently. See if there's any weird ones. I know they would eat brains and whatever sometimes. I've had brain.
You have?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What type of brain was it?
It was in a taco. They called it head.
Do you know what type of animal it was from?
I think it was a goat or something.
Nice.
I had it one time. It was not good. It was very not good.
I'd be weary of
Very
brain as a
very
thing to eat.
fatty. Well, not you know how brain is like gelatinous and whatever.
Yeah,
It
squishy.
was not. Yeah, very. It was not pleasing. Top 10 facts you need to know about golems. Oh, that sounds fun. I'm more of a ghoul guy myself.
I also like
I like
ghouls.
ghouls. I like magnets. I've been listening to the Always Sunny podcast, and they were on that episode. Matt gets married, or no, the waitress gets married.
Yeah.
This is a tangent, by the way, but I don't have any. I would have to run over to the kitchen and get a shot. But this is the first one.
Yeah.
But he was just talking. They were talking about just like how he thought ghouls would just be funny, and yeah, that's basically it. Tell us more about Rome, Colton.
Okay.
Modern day Rome.
Modern day
You've
Rome.
been there, haven't you?
I went
How
there.
was the Colosseum? How big was it?
It's pretty cool. Is pretty big. I went there with Jarrett.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jarrett.
I mean, Rome was cool. I preferred Florence. I kind of wish I could go back to Rome now. Appreciate it more. I found a list here. It's not that cool of a
Did you
list.
get to go inside the Colosseum or anything? Or
Yeah, I was inside it. Not into the middle area. But I did go inside.
Now, do we know? Because I know erosion and everything, of course, over 1,000. How old is the Colosseum? Like 2,000?
Let's see. It was built under the reign of Titus, so that would be 90 AD or CE.
So basically, like 2,000.
Yeah, almost 2,000 years old.
Almost.
The thing
why?
with a lot of those ruins, like the Colosseum, so I mean, two things to remember about Roman ruins is that one is that sediment builds up a lot faster than people think it does.
Right.
A lot of Roman ruins are or were completely buried.
Yeah, most of them are probably gone.
Yeah, that's why cities like
now
Florence
is the Colosseum
don't have a subway system, is because there's Roman ruins underground. And then there's
like
things
much like how Mexico City was built on top of the Aztec ruins.
Yeah,
or was it Mayan?
Yeah, Aztec, the Mexica. Yeah.
Aztec, yeah.
Yeah, where Mexico City is built on a lake, and then they filled in the lake. But colonizing, yeah.
Yep.
And then there's also a lot of examples of things like the Colosseum. It's partly in the state it's now today, not because of just natural erosion, but
that's what I was wondering, because like, why is there a huge chunk of it missing? Like, I figured if it wasn't touched and it was just natural erosion, most of it would still probably be there.
Well, yeah, I mean, a really important thing to remember about
I just wonder what happened.
History, especially ancient history, is that throughout a lot of our human history, people didn't give a fuck about preserving things.
Right. Well,
so, and I don't
just like how we don't give a fuck about preserving modern day buildings, like just random homes and whatever. We just let places go to shit.
And I don't mean
in the future, 2,000 years from now, they're gonna be like, oh, why didn't they preserve this?
And I don't mean just
history.
letting places go to shit, but I mean like people would like take stones from the Colosseum and use it to build their own houses.
Right.
And people, so there used to be like marble and stuff like that in the Colosseum. People would strip the marble off of it.
So what? This is a side tangent, but like with the Sphinx, there's all kinds of rumors on why it lost its nose and everything. This is just simply erosion. Then Napoleon shoot it with a cannonball.
Napoleon didn't shoot it with a cannonball. Napoleon did discover it.
But it's like we have all these rumors about these things, but like the Colosseum, is there anything we know that happened to it? Or
people just took shit from it.
Or just people just took
like
shit from
yeah,
it.
It was because Rome was never abandoned. It was people have always been living in Rome since it was founded. It got to it. There was a period of time after the fall of the Western Roman Empire where, you know, a long time after the Colosseum was no longer in use, people just started. They were like, we need to build our houses. We need materials.
No one stopped them. No one cared.
Whether because we're trying to get valuable materials to sell or because we need building materials. And here's a building, no one's using it, and it has some pre-cut stones for us to use.
Now this would have been
so they would take
way after they moved the capital moved to Constantinople, right?
Oh, way after that, yeah.
Way after.
Constantinople became the capital of the Roman Empire during 200 CE, somewhere around there, give or take 50 years. I don't know.
And then move on like another 1,000 years, you get the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah,
or was it sooner than that?
Less than 1,000 years. of the Holy Roman Empire,
like 800.
Yeah, that's a weird one because the first Holy Roman Empire would have been Emperor would have been Charlemagne, which is in the 9th century. So in the 800s, but the Holy Roman Empire as a, you know, was modern day Germany, like that. When you think of that, that's slightly different. It's weird. It's really weird.
Well, a lot of that still bleeds in today.
Yeah.
To like the Holy Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is built upon the Holy Roman Empire.
You know, you take just throughout the medieval period, people just took shit from Roman ruins. Either Roman ruins were completely buried. I mean, you look at the Sphinx. The Sphinx was discovered by Napoleon. And I mean discovered by Napoleon as before Napoleon and his troops discovered it, it was completely buried in sand.
Right.
Because sediment builds up very quick.
No one really bothered with it.
Yeah, nobody gave a shit.
And now the pyramids. Well, we'll do an Egypt episode at some point. Maybe that'll be the next historical one. That'd be fun.
I know you're a buff with a history buff with ancient Egypt.
Well, I like Egyptian stuff, but I wouldn't call myself a history buff. I mean, I've done some essays on like Nefertiti, Cleopatra.
I mean, the Romans borrowed a lot of shit from ancient Egypt.
Cleopatra was, I would say, one of Caesar's lovers.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Her and Mark Antony.
Some of like the best depictions of Cleopatra come from Roman bust of her.
Yeah,
when she visited. You know,
and and the Romans took a lot from Egyptian culture too. So in a couple different ways. So in later Roman,
Cleopatra was very much like a emissary to Rome.
Yeah,
in many ways.
And then also, I mean, she was very smart. She managed to kind of strike a deal that kept Egypt as a independent. It was in the Roman sphere of influence, but it remained independent for a long time because of what she did. She was
because she slept with Caesar.
Well, yeah, that, but also the way she played her cards she was a smart
woman. She was very smart. Yeah.
But so like later in Roman history, you know, time of Constantine, you see on like Roman coins. So Roman coins were propaganda as well as money. Because
our coins are propaganda.
Yeah, we still do.
Our coin, the whole idea of our coins is extremely similar. It's like the same as Roman coins.
Yeah,
you have the president's heads.
Yeah, well, you would see. In Roman coins later in the Roman Empire, so like time of Constantine, and you see this symbology now in the United States.
Oh, the United States is extremely Roman.
So you know the Statue of Liberty, the spiked crown thing.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
that's a Roman thing. It's Sol Invictus.
that was designed by a Frenchman, though.
Yeah. But still, it's still, you see it in modern art and stuff all the time.
Well, go to Washington D.C. or go to any capital in the United States. Roman architecture. You have Roman iconography, and you could argue, it's also Greek iconography,
Greco-Roman, you might call it. Yeah,
Greco-Roman. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. But you have Lady Freedom, and all these classical statues, and then you go into the rotunda, and it's our like landmarks are all based off of some kind of ancient culture, and most of them are Roman, and their architecture with the columns. Like, go to the Lincoln Memorial, go to Jefferson Memorial. And then you have some other cultures that sink their way in, like the Washington Monument is just an Egyptian what's it called?
An obelisk.
Obelisk, yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, but I mean,
but like I even read that the layout of Washington D.C. is like a Roman inspired layout for a city.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. No, but I mean, Statue of Liberty, not even just the crown thing, although that's the most distinguishing feature, but the entire image of the Statue of Liberty, of Lady Liberty, is based off of Sol Invictus, which was this thing you saw pop up in the late Western Roman Empire. So, the 200 CE, and later, which became their head god. I mean, you think of their head god, you think of like Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
But later in Roman history, it became Sol Invictus, which was the sun god. Where do you think they got that from?
And like the Roman gods,
I'm just gonna ask you, where do you think Sol Invictus comes from? The sun god. It's not Greek.
No, that's definitely not Greek, because we all know that. So like you have the Greek gods, Zeus, fucking Hades, Ares, Venus. No, not Venus, sorry. Aphrodite.
Yeah.
And then the Roman gods, it's just the planets.
Yeah, Romanized
Jupiter.
versions of them.
Jupiter is Ares. No, Mars is Ares. Jupiter is Zeus.
Yeah.
Neptune is Poseidon, essentially.
Pluto is Hades.
But like that whole pantheon, it didn't last forever, obviously. And
you saw when Constantine took power, he was Christian, or he converted, and there's a whole story about that.
But Christianity was still very much illegal
until Constantine. Yeah, so Constantine did a really smart thing, and he didn't make Christianity the state religion. He just made it legal,
which it would be,
and portrayed himself as Christian. But he knew you see in coins of Constantine, he portrays himself as with Roman god, like Roman religious archetypes. So there's a coin here. I'm holding up a coin.
You actually have one
here. On the back of this coin, it shows Constantine. You won't be able to see this, but it shows Constantine. This was minted after his death. It's a commemoration coin, and he's veiled, and the veil represented the office of the Pontifex Maximus, which is the head of the Roman state religion. So you had a Christian emperor who was still using Roman religious iconography.
Well, if he wanted to be an efficient emperor and have any sway over his people, he wanted to just say, Christianity is the new religion of the Roman Empire. That wouldn't come until centuries later.
Way less than centuries later, like more like 50 years later. It didn't take long.
Well, my timeline's off. I don't.
But
for some reason, I think
right,
Constantine is. For some reason, I picture Constantine like still quite a bit before Charlemagne.
He is. Charlemagne wasn't Roman though. He is French.
Yeah, he was French.
Yeah, Charlemagne. So Constantine is like 200 CE. Give or take. I don't remember exactly when Constantine was around. But no, my point is he was smart about it. And one of the images you would see him use was the Sol Invictus. Now, what I'm asking you is sun god. I mean, just think, what sun god? What's the first sun god you think of? Mediterranean region sun god.
Ra.
Yes, Sol Invictus is Ra. The Romans borrowed
Okay.
Ra and put it
So
into
they
their own
borrowed
religion,
from the Egyptians too.
and it became like their main god in later years of the empire.
Really?
And so that's one way, you see Egyptian religion coming into Roman culture, and then the other ways you see, so one of the cultures that predates Rome itself, the Etruscans, which we really don't know a lot about. They're very mysterious to us. But one thing we do notice in Etruscan, archaeologists have figured out from what they've studied about Etruscans is that they would build necropolises for their dead, and the Etruscans seemed to have a very similar mentality with the afterlife to the Egyptians.
Like with mummification and pharaohs and everything?
Yeah, well, maybe not mummification, but like a necropolis, the idea that you would go into the afterlife, be judged by the god, and you had to have the things that you were buried with are the things that you would have in the afterlife. Because
Yeah.
if you think in the entire Mediterranean region, one of the two big cultures off the top of my head that did like things like a necropolis was the Egyptians being the most famous one, but also the Etruscans. And the Etruscans are one of the cultures that were in Italy that predated the Romans. And the Romans didn't bring that aspect of the religion over, the afterlife thing, but they brought a lot of Etruscan stuff over into their own culture. Which, I mean, it just kind of brings it in perspective of how all of these Mediterranean cultures, the Romans, the Greeks, the Iberians, Carthaginians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, they're all still the Mediterranean region. They're all still very interconnected.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Which
trade routes
I
and
think a
all that.
lot of people forget about, because a lot of people think about ancient world and how we think about the modern world with borders, and that's not how it worked then. It's not exactly right.
No.
I mean,
No. Now, when did exactly the Roman Empire begin? What would you say marked the start of the Roman Empire?
the Roman Empire, in
Yeah.
what was it?
No, not the Roman Empire. um, just Roman, because it was an empire originally.
Well, yeah. So it was. Oh, let me pull this up. So
Caesar
753 BCE would be mark the official foundation of Rome. Now, originally it was a kingdom and had kings. So starting with Romulus and Remus. So Romulus being the one who murdered Remus. And there were 7 kings of Rome, and then the Republic was formed.
Yeah, then it was a republic, and then Caesar would,
and then the Republic goes on until Caesar, which was
becomes an emperor.
60 BCE. Let me see. 44 BC is when Caesar died. So
it was Brutus that killed Caesar, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, Brutus and a bunch of other people. Caesar was stabbed like a ton of times. It was, and Octavian, who would become Augustus, the first emperor. Now, you can ask a lot of people some people, historians, consider Caesar to be the first emperor of Rome, because he really did set it up.
That precedent, yeah.
But you can argue that Caesar was more of a dictator. It's weird. There's a lot of arguments on.
Well, through his military victories and his fame and fortune, he expanded his power to become a dictator.
Essentially,
And
yeah.
to quickly sum it up, yeah, I watched the
Watch The Dark
they have
Knight,
a
the quote from Harvey Dent,
yeah, you live long
or
enough
or Rachel actually says that Caesar was the last. Yeah, it's Rachel that says the line.
because they would appoint one man to protect Rome.
Kind of a
So and such,
dictator.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
some
then
people argue that. So
you live long enough to become the hero or die becoming the villain or whatever.
there's
Or no, he died hero or live to be the villain.
Yeah. There's
Something
another.
like
I don't remember his name, but it was geez, not too maybe 100 years at most before Caesar. 50 years. I don't remember when it was. But there's another guy who was the example of a dictator who was appointed dictator. He was a consul, so the Rome had the Senate and then two consuls who served year-long terms. And a consul could become a dictator. And there was a guy who became a dictator and like didn't want to give up his power, and he eventually he fucked himself. And he lost. He didn't succeed, but some people even consider that guy to be the first real emperor of Rome because he was the one that kind of started it all by trying that in the first place. But it's weird. So who you consider to be the
Caesar,
first?
I think Caesar made it a reality.
Oh yeah, definitely. Caesar. I would argue Caesar didn't because I would argue Caesar wasn't an emperor because even Augustus, when he became emperor, he was really smart about how he played it. He didn't immediately step in and say like, "Oh, like Chancellor, like Palpatine, going, oh, I'm reforming it into the first galactic."
I am the Senate.
He didn't do that. He stepped in, made him like established himself, gathered more power on top of what Caesar did, and kind of transitioned the Republic into the Empire. He didn't just declare it an empire.
Now,
Yeah.
Colton, can you name off the top of your head Caesar's greatest military conquests?
Gaul.
Just some of your
Gaul.
some that you know. Gaul?
Yeah. It's his only really impressive one. There's other, I mean, he did other stuff, but Gaul is like, that's what brought him fame and fortune. He
So Gaul
yeah, when he
was the
France,
Germanic
basically.
Okay, France. Okay.
Is what you would call Gaul. And there's a bunch of fascinating stuff there. He defeated what's his name? Vercingetorix, who is like the Gaulish leader who really gave the Romans a hard time. But Caesar, I mean, Caesar was awesome. He Caesar, yes. He was cool. He was I don't want to go on any rant, so I'm just gonna say a couple things about
That's why Caesar was awesome.
Fun things about Caesar, not
all right.
not gushing on him. So one thing is that he got himself appointed Pontifex Maximus. Pontifex Maximus, the religious head of Rome. But one of their jobs was to manage the calendar of Rome, which meant declaring exactly when holidays would be, and also
Wait,
meant
is this
they did a.
Is this where we lost time?
No,
but I know it was the Romans' fuck up, right?
So they lost some time. He fixed it, and then we lost a little bit of time until the Gregorian calendar, which is the modern calendar. And if you ever hear people say that we're actually so many years off because of the Gregorian calendar, that is wrong. We're like,
that's something I've heard, but I never
a couple of days off.
Oh wow!
At most, the Gregorian calendar is really good.
Well, yeah, no wonder we use
it. But it is related
like
to this.
Society.
It is related to this fun thing about Julius Caesar. So he was in charge of. So the Roman calendar, they had a solar calendar, or, yeah, or as a lunar calendar. It's a lunar calendar. I don't remember, but they had their calendar, and it was off. So the Pontimus Maximus, one of their jobs was to insert days into the year manually to keep the calendar on track. But Julius Caesar spent like 15 years off in Gaul conquering, so he wasn't doing that. So when it came time for the Roman Civil War that happened, where he was basically taking control and like setting himself up to be emperor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's an example, one situation where one of his enemies fled to Greece, and they sent out a blockade into the what's the sea in between Greece and Italy called? I don't remember. And they sent out ships to blockade there, so he couldn't get across with his army. But they were looking at the calendar and they're like, "Oh, it's like January. It's winter. It's dangerous to have ships out. So we should bring our ships back."
The Ionian Sea.
Nice. So they brought their ships back into port, but really it was actually like May, like spring, because Julius Caesar had fucked up on the calendar. But Julius Caesar knew this. So when they pulled their ship back because they thought it was winter, he used that to cross the Ionian Sea to.
How did they
attack
think it was
them.
winter though?
I don't know. They were just following
What do
the
you
calendar.
know? Oh, it's cold.
It's one of those weird, like,
not
fun little things with history where it's like, how did this happen? I don't know.
Imagine looking at your phone like in the middle of like January, but it says May. You're like, well, fuck, it's summer. I'm just gonna wear shorts and a shirt.
Yeah. And then because of this whole situation is one of the reasons why he then went and helped create. He had help. He didn't do it by himself. He had a very smart guy. I don't remember the guy's name. It was an Egyptian guy. Help him create the Julian calendar, which went until like the 1500s, and then the Gregorian calendar, which is just a slightly modified version of the Julian calendar.
Well, July
and Augustus, right?
I think also doesn't October derive? I know July and August.
So basically,
Julius.
A lot of
Augustus.
the months are named after what month they are. So October originally would have been the 8th month of the year. And can you guess what are the 2 months? So what are the two months they added when they made the Julian calendar?
November and December?
Nope, because that's 9 and 10.
Or what did they add?
January and February.
Okay.
And they changed the months,
and then October shifted to 10.
Yeah, and then they changed the names of the months to July and August. But they didn't add those months in, they just changed the names. They added January and February off of it's based on a god. January. That's
well, and like Saturday, doesn't that come from like Saturn, Saturnalia?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Janus is where the Roman god of beginnings and endings is where the word January comes from, and then February comes from the word februm,
beginning of the year,
purification, the rites and yeah. So that those are the 2 months they added. They didn't add July and August; they just changed the names.
Okay.
So I don't know what they would have been before. Anyway, before I rant too much about Julius Caesar.
Hey, you go on.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, because I think this would be good for some Instagram posts. because one of my favorite things about Roman culture is the architecture.
Yeah.
And this isn't visual, but I'll be sure to post some of these in the Instagram. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly go through, see if you recognize any of these. Sure you will. So number 10, the Ark of Septimus Severus. This monumental ark was constructed in 203 AD. In fact, I could screen share to show you.
Oh yeah, definitely do that.
Oh, you disabled it.
Oh.
This is making for
I
a
changed it now.
great.
I changed it now.
You fixed it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna show you all my horn pub.
You know, at some point we're going to be doing Zoom a lot of the time on the show here.
Yeah.
That honestly could be a excuse for us to start every once in a while doing video clips at least or something like that.
Well, I'm gonna look into getting a good webcam, so I'll be in HD.
Nice. I should do the same.
And
I'm just using my built-in webcam on my laptop.
Me too. But if we want to do a visual podcast at some point, I want it to be good quality, of course.
Yeah.
In fact, let me see if I just pull this list up online.
Then we can stop neglecting our YouTube channel.
Yeah. I don't even, I keep forgetting that exists.
Not every episode for some reason even makes it on there. Because it's just automated what Podbean posts.
Decides.
And not every episode even makes it onto YouTube for whatever reason. And I don't give a shit enough to like worry about it really.
Here we go. This is the same list I was looking at.
Oh, cool.
So this way you can see. So yeah, the Arch of Septimus Severus. Can you see that? Look at it.
Oh, yes.
This monumental arch was constructed in 203 AD in the recognition of unprecedented Roman victories over the Parthians in the dying years of the 2nd century. Nope, I don't want to subscribe. Thank you very much.
Of course,
it was under Septimus Severus' rule that Rome was able to successfully suppress a raging civil war among its neighboring states. But the icing on the cake came when he immediately declared war on the Parthian Empire and brought the Parthians to their knees. In recognition of his achievements, the Roman Senate had one of the most beautifully decorated triumphal arches erected on his return to Rome. Originally, it had a bronze gilded inscription as homage to Septimus and his 2 sons, Caracalla and Geta. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. For having restored and expanded the Roman Republic. It was a unique triumphal monument by all standards in contemporary Rome. Even today, despite some heavy damage, it stands as a lasting reminder of a once flamboyant Roman Republic. Number 9, nice. The Temples of Baalbek. Major attraction and remarkable archaeological site in present-day Lebanon, Baalbek is considered one of the most spectacular wonders of the ancient world. It also happens to be one of the largest, most prestigious, and most well-preserved Roman temples built in the ancient Roman era.
I'm just looking at it. I'm like, that's a really good example of Romans copying Greek architecture.
Yeah, and then
because in a lot of Roman architecture, you can see Greek stuff,
the columns,
but they Romanize it. That's a really good example. It's very Greek looking.
Yeah. The first of Baalbek temples was constructed in the 1st century BC, and over the next 200 years, Romans built 3 more, each dedicated to the gods Jupiter, Bacchus, and Venus, respectively. The largest temple among them was the Temple of Jupiter, which had 54 huge granite columns, each around 70 feet tall.
Nice.
Oh, this has always been one of my favorites. I remember climbing it in one of the Assassin's Creeds.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Egyptian one or whatever. I know they had one of these Roman bridge. Is that what it would be?
An aqueduct.
Aqueduct?
Yeah, they're
The
aqueducts.
Point de Garde, literally the Guard Bridge, is one of the few surviving aqueducts constructed during the Roman Empire. Located in present-day southern France, it was built somewhere in the middle of the 1st century AD. Aqueduct was constructed without the use of any mortar. Roman engineers built this 3-story masterpiece by fitting together massive blocks of precisely cut stones. These huge blocks of stone weighed up to 6 tons each, and the bridge itself measured up to 1,180 feet at its highest point.
I mean,
It's
those are
quite
the
impressive.
aqueducts. If you were to describe them to someone like they're just a way to transport water, they don't sound that cool. But when you look at them, you're like, wow,
They look so cool.
they're cool looking, and it's really impressive. That, I mean, 2,000
Even
years
and
almost, you know.
and like some of the ancient cities you discover in Elden Ring,
Yeah.
they have like Roman inspired aqueducts. I really like how in Elden Ring, like you go into one of the, I forget what it's called, but one of the like buried underground cities, it has a bit of like Egyptian culture, Roman culture. Like it's a cool kind of mix of
Oh
those
yeah.
ancient cultures.
I definitely need to get back into Elden Ring. I think I'm gonna,
Yeah, you
if
should.
it's on sale ever, I'm gonna grab it on the Steam Deck.
I would. I think you'll have more
I've heard
fun with
it's
it on
great
there, and
on that, yeah.
it'll run better, and it will look better.
Yeah.
Um,
Say what you about, but say what you will about the Romans being weird as fuck. They built some cool shit.
well, of course, we have the Pantheon. Pantheon is arguably the most well-preserved architectural marvel from the ancient Roman era. Unlike many other contemporary Roman temples that were always dedicated to particular Roman deities, Pantheon was a temple for all the Roman gods, hence the name Pantheon.
Can you tell me who built
Construction
it?
of
The emperor. You can. Here's a hint. It's in the picture.
It's in the picture.
Marcus Agrippa.
Oh, okay. I
M.
don't read
Agrippa.
Latin. I'm sorry.
No, it just says M. Agrippa is the first word there.
Oh, it's just literally his
Yeah, Marcus Agrippa.
first initial and last
Yeah.
name.
Yep.
That's great. That's great.
The Romans were all about abbreviating shit. You see that in their coins, especially because you have limited space, so you have to abbreviate shit.
Well, yeah, look at like frat houses and stuff that use
Yeah.
Roman letters and shit.
Yeah, but they don't know. They don't.
Construction of this. No. The construction of this temple was completed in 125 AD during the rule of Hadrian.
Yeah.
The Pantheon was a large circular portico that opens up to a rotunda. The rotunda is covered by a majestic dome that adds a whole new dimension to its grandeur. Sheer size and scale of this dome is a lasting testimony to the skills of ancient Roman architects and engineers. In fact, this astounding piece of engineering still stands today, surviving 2,000 years worth of corrosion and natural disasters. Speaks volumes for its build quality.
And
honestly,
so here's what I'll say about the Parthenon, or the Pantheon, not the Parthenon, different building. The Pantheon.
Greek.
The way they built it, so that the dome is made of blocks of concrete that are just stacked.
Well, yeah, concrete.
That
was a huge
which is
technological,
super impressive. And then also, that is one of the Roman buildings on this list I've seen in person.
Nice.
And I have to say, it's my favorite. It is breathtaking in real life. It's massive. I distinctly remember, like, and this is after having seen the Forum and the Colosseum and all that stuff. I remember turning the corner in, then Rome. You're in a city, and you turn a corner, and there's that building sitting there.
Right.
And it's in immaculate condition. And it is breathtaking. It's really, really, really impressive.
And then, as I was talking about before, you can see it everywhere in the U.S. Capitol and any U.S. Capitol, but especially Washington, D.C. All these major landmarks.
I really love the design of the Lincoln Memorial. because
Roman inspired.
we're looking at a picture here. You look at the Lincoln Memorial. It has the Roman inspired thing, but the top of it, where it's very squared off, almost seems Egyptian to me.
Well, yeah, because
Which was people don't talk about was also a real Egyptian architecture was really, 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 really big throughout the 1800s in the United States.
Yeah, look right there, the Washington Monument.
Yeah, I really love the Lincoln Memorial architecturally. It's a really, really cool looking building.
No, but Roman Republic, Roman Empire, especially Republic, this idea of the Senate, and so much about Rome still carries on to this day
SPQR
in modern society.
The SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the people of Rome.
Yep.
Even into the era of the empire, that was still the like kind of the motto of Rome. If
Senate of the
sense.
Roman Empire.
Yeah. Because the Senate and specifically the Senate and the people of Rome.
And the people of Rome.
So I gotta look this up real quick because I don't remember off the top of my head. So okay, yeah, here it is. So, you take Augustus. I mentioned earlier that Augustus, when he became emperor, he didn't just like in Star Wars declare
Not straight up Roman.
It is Roman, but he didn't just declare himself emperor. He declared himself, this was Principes, which means the first person. Meaning that it was his way of saying, hey, to the citizens of Rome, the people of Rome, saying, hey, I'm one of you. I'm just the one that's in charge. Because still, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the people of Rome, as much as Caesar and Augustus were immensely popular among the people of Rome, they still valued the idea of the Republic and the Senate, because there are many accounts throughout Caesar's rise to power of people accusing him of being a king, but being a king, that was bad in Rome, even during the empire. If someone called you a king, that was an insult. The Romans were so adamantly against the idea of a monarchy that even Caesar made a big fuss. There's an example of a time where he made a big fuss where it was a public event. He was on stage and he did this whole staged thing where someone came and offered him a crown in front of everyone and he refused it.
Oh, yeah?
Because it would be so negative to be associated with a monarchy, with being a king. So Augustus, he was very smart. He did not jump to saying, I am a monarchy, I'm in charge. He said, no, I'm one of you. I am a person of Rome. I just happen to be the one who is in charge. But I'm still a Roman citizen.
Man of Rome.
Just like any of you. Which was the smartest thing he possibly could have done.
I was talking about, just the Roman influence on the United States, but it's everywhere. One of the ones I always kind of got confused, the Arc de Triomphe.
In Paris.
Mission by Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's straight up Roman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not even like Greco-Roman. No,
it's just Roman.
Just straight up Roman, yeah. Because that's something the Romans did. The triumph arcs. That thing there on your screen there. What's that? That's also very Roman. That's something Romans. Those column things.
What is
What are
it?
they called? I don't remember what they're called. That's something Romans did too.
The place. The place of Vendôme? I don't know what it's called, but that's definitely in France. Sorry, I'm. This isn't working out for audio. Oh fuck yeah, the Jefferson Memorial. Yeah, that's definitely.
Oh yeah, I
But
forget
yeah,
about
I
that when
mean,
it's like straight modeled off of the Pantheon.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even. It's
Nothing wrong with that though. The Pantheon's a beautiful building. It originally probably had like gold on it and stuff like that too.
No, imagine going back to the height of Rome, and actually seeing those structures,
The
in their
idea of
original
portraying
with all the paint,
the idea
and
of
the
portraying
inlays and
Roman Greco-Roman architecture and statues as like pure marble and stuff like that was a Renaissance invention.
yeah, because I mean that's how we see it now because of erosion and the paint went away and so on and so forth. But
yeah,
I mean,
the Pantheon, it's in immaculate condition, but it would have had like gold on the front of it
and
stuff like that.
plenty of paint and colors and
yeah, but it's a really impressive building.
Yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to say about ancient Rome?
Yeah, see if I can pull it up here.
And then we'll end this one.
Yeah, so I have an example. All right, let me see. Okay. Trying to find let me see.
I just typed in Roman and I got numerals, and I'm like, fuck yeah, we still use the Roman numerals.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but like look at different movie titles and different book chapters.
So I was trying to find this list here. I've got maybe
I remember learning the Roman numerals in math class.
Oh yeah.
In elementary school.
Yeah. So
it's like,
I've
when
got
are we ever going to use this?
I thought an appropriate way to close us out here. I had to find this tab.
Yeah, let's close this out with something good.
You started it with a joke. I think we should end it with a joke. I've got some jokes from ancient Rome, not about ancient Rome.
So
from ancient Rome, Roman jokes.
So this is what they found funny.
Yeah. So here we go.
Pee on the peasants. I don't
know. This is mentioned by this joke is from Aulus Gellius, 2nd century CE. A man standing before a censor is about to testify whether he has a wife. The censor asks, "Do you have, in all your honesty, a wife?" And he responds, "I surely do, but not in all my honesty."
That's pretty good.
Here we go. Here's another one. I've just got a couple of these. A runner.
I do, but not in all my honesty.
Yeah. This is from 1st century BCE. A runner going to participate in the Olympic Games had a dream that he was driving a quadriga. Early in the morning, he goes to a dream interpreter for an explanation. The reply is, "You will win." That meant the speed and the strength of the horses. But to be sure about this, the runner visits another dream interpreter. This one replies, "You will lose. Don't you understand that 4 ones came before you? I don't get this one. Um
Don't you understand that 4 ones came before you?
let's
What's
see
a
what
quadriga?
it's like
Anyways,
4
like some
horses
kind of
drawn.
chariot?
Oh, I get it. Okay. Because a quadriga is a chariot pulled by 4 horses, so 4 ones came before
Mm.
you. The 4
Oh, because the
horses.
horses won.
Right. Yeah, okay. I get it. I get it now.
Well, that's why you just last second
Yeah.
you jump in front of the horses, get trampled, but you win.
Yeah. So one more here.
Give us another one. All
Um
right, one more.
uh let's see. So
Make it a good one. Or bad.
this one, there's only a few jokes here. So this one, the I'm just gonna say it, read out from this website the preface for this. Naturally, in Rome as well as today, it was not appropriate to make fun of certain social groups or to burn jokes. For example, Romans believed that a blind person should not be mocked. Moreover, not all the jokes were funny.
That's
Some,
fair.
as we would call them today, were
It
chestnut.
shouldn't be.
Some of the historians' accounts show what the ruler what could make the ruler laugh. And here's
I
the
just drank a
joke.
whole bottle of wine.
Nice. I'm
Almost
done with mine. Hold on. Yeah, I need a good drink before this.
I don't drink wine all the time, but when I do, I
You
always
down a whole-
regret it the next morning,
You
right?
down a whole
But
bottle in one sitting?
I've talked about this before, that wine always gets me and yeah, it could be it could be all psychological placebo effect, but it always gets me in a happier kind of drunk, you know.
I'm sure it's a placebo effect, but I agree with you though. Because here's the thing, is placebo does not have to mean it's
Works.
not a legitimate like mental way
If
you're
you
processing stuff.
it's not that I'm actively thinking, oh yeah, wine makes me, you know,
But it's more like, technically speaking,
giddy
every
when I'm
type of
drunk.
alcohol gets you drunk, and there's not a different type of drunk depending on the alcohol.
But there's different
You are in a
ingredients.
different mindset depending on what you're
Well,
drinking.
and you have
And that
fermented
does affect-
grapes.
Well, no, it's I think it's more like, depending on what you're drinking, you are in a different mindset. And that affects
Well, and also,
what mood you're in.
I think it depends on, because like beer is carbonated in most cases, unless you're drinking a stout.
Yeah, so you're gonna be more bloated and shit. Yeah.
Wine, you know, you don't feel that bloating. You don't. It's just very light. It's refreshing. It's and also it dyes your lips red, so
Yeah.
everyone knows you've been drinking wine.
Oh yeah. But anyway, here's this last joke. This is from Suetonius. Oh shit, Suetonius. That's
Who's
awesome.
Suetonius?
He was a Roman historian from 1st or 2nd century CE. I don't remember. I had to read a bunch of his shit in school. All right. At one of his more sumptuous banquets, Caligula, this is a joke about Caligula,
Okay.
suddenly burst into a fit of laughter. And when the consuls, who were reclining next to him, politely inquired at what he was laughing, he replied, "What do you suppose, except that a single nod of mine, both of you could have your throats cut on the spot?"
I like that.
This is
I like
this is
that.
supposed to be an account of something
like-
Caligula was laughing at. Yeah. He was notoriously a bad.
Well, that's the
So-
modern, you know, that's the modern equivalent of basically saying, like, not even joking with somebody, just telling somebody to fuck off, you know.
Yeah. I'm
gonna beat you up, that kind of thing.
Suetonius wrote his most famous thing he wrote is called the 12 Caesars, which was his historical account, quote unquote historical account of the first 12 Caesars up to when he was alive, which was basically the Julian and the Flavian dynasty. And it's actually a really important read if you're ever studying Roman history. But yeah. So that's apparently something Caligula would have laughed at.
All right.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, Chat GPT is gonna give us something.
Oh, sweet. That's a perfect way to end this. There it is, last of the wine.
Here's another joke about ancient Rome. Why did the Roman soldier go into the bar?
Why?
To get AI, you don't even know anything. But anyways, the answer was to get a few beers and some Caesar salad. A Roman soldier would never purchase a beer.
Oh, well, okay.
Oh.
I'm gonna defend Chat GPT here and say maybe this is a Roman soldier.
A soldier
who was
the Gauls or something
out of the Gauls, because there were some
Roman
soldiers who were recruited from Gaul.
And maybe he's getting beer in private. He hopes no one finds out.
Maybe it's a Roman soldier who is from Gaul but joined the Romans, or it's a Roman soldier who is from Rome but is in Gaul.
And maybe
that's
beer
just
is
what they have. It's just what they got.
But I think a true Roman soldier would even lower themselves.
They'd be drinking
such
wine,
a drink,
dude.
Yeah.
Wine.
If all the AI had to do was just say wine, that's all it had to do.
Yeah.
And that joke would have been so funny.
What did So a Roman soldier walks into a bar. He walks up to the bartender and says, "I'd like 5 beers, please." And he holds up 2 fingers.
Well, yeah, because the Roman.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
But he would never ask for 5 beers.
Maybe he's buying it for his friends. He's buying Oh yeah, because beers, right?
He's friends with non-Romans.
Yeah. Maybe he's buying some beers for some.
Okay. I gave the AI a premise. A Roman soldier walks into a bar.
Okay.
Sure, here's a joke with that premise. A Roman soldier walks into a bar and asks the bartender for a martinus. Bartender, confused, asks, "Don't you mean a martini?" The Roman soldier replies, "If I wanted more than one, I would have asked for a martinius."
That's really good. That's really good, actually. I'm gonna.
There you go.
Thank you, ChatGPT. That's actually a good joke.
Here, I'll share it to you.
Yeah, that's good.
Finally, the AI did a good
one.
All right, well, we better end this one.
Probably should, yes.
Me and Colton are. Actually, I'm not even gonna say anything. The next episode, you know how it goes. It could be about anything, but I hope
you gotta
it's about
stay tuned to find out
something in particular. But you'll see when it comes out, won't you? Be sure to follow us at Odd Drunk Pod on Instagram. Check out our link tree. Give us a download, subscribe, review, rating, whatever you prefer, whatever you listen to. Spotify, we actually have 5 stars now. Like, actually,
Hell
it counts.
yeah.
We have 10 ratings. So we would like to have some more ratings. Apple Podcasts, we got over 40. You know, that's good. But definitely, if you enjoy this, definitely leave us a rating or review,
Yeah, tell
because
us what you think.
not only it's good to see what you think and to get some feedback, it also really helps with the algorithm. It helps us be found by other people, by new listeners. You know, um, the more ratings we have, the better. And I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious.
Oh yeah.
We got some things in the works for you that might be coming out relatively soon, depending on what me and Colton can do with our schedule. So stay tuned. Just stay tuned for
Yeah.
some new things. And
Some exciting new things, not just any new things.
yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah. We're doing some different stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that.
But you gotta stick around to find out.
Yeah, stick around. Or don't.
But do.
We would prefer if you do, but
We love it when we see user retention. That's great.
Oh yeah, that's always good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you next week. Stay tuned for some. We still need a outro
We
thing.
should
Just play the outro.
We'll just have the AI do it.
Yeah. Here, since
Okay,
you're saying it.
Yeah, do it.
I guess Chat GPT is going to be a reoccurring character guest on this show. Let's see, write an outro for the Odd Drunk podcast. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Odd Drunk Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our ramblings and musings and that you had a few laughs along the way. Remember, drink responsibly and stay weird.
Stay weird.
See you next time. I like that. Stay weird.
This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. The Odd Drunk Podcast recommends you follow their Instagram and join their Facebook group for more fun content. To visit all of our current streaming and social media platforms, visit the link tree in the description. If you enjoy the show, we would be appreciated it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The Odd Drunk Podcast would like to remind you to drink responsibly and not to drink and drive. Okay, Colton, you can roll the outro now.